Bare minimum, if he's dictating his price and is down, you have to get a longer term, right? You got to talk about the seesaw. You got these three variables here, and you're asking for all three. I just can't give you all three. That wouldn't be fair. We have to make this fair so we're both happy in 3 or 4 or 5, 6 years.
I had a follow-up call with this seller probably about 6 months ago. He would like to sell his house and he was okay selling it on the financing, but the terms that he wanted didn't work for us. He wanted the monthly payment was too high. And when I call him back to say, hey, the numbers don't make sense on our end, he quickly hung up on me. But I call him back this time and he's got a new tenant in there with a higher rent. And if he is going to sell, he is expecting the buyer to take over the tenant. And the lease doesn't end until June of next year. So he's open to a 5-year balloon. The price has gone up. He bought the lot right next to this house for $5,000. So he wants $135,000. 20,000 down, 6% interest. And he told me, I didn't do the calculation, but he told me with a 6% interest, the monthly payment is probably around $600 to $700 a month. And right now he's getting about $1,200 a month. So he said, hey, you can still get pretty decent cash flow.
What are the taxes? That's the only thing that would come off that insurance.
Oh, taxes are awfully low. He told me it's about $500 a year.
Okay, and plus you pass them on, insurance is minimal. Okay, so what's the question on this one?
Well, the question is, he wants his price. He wants 20K down, which is more than 10%, and he wants 6% interest. So I didn't know how to go back.
You got to set boundaries, right? I think, Chris, you might agree with what Zach told us, the chairman's the 555. I don't know if you want to disclose that or bring that up.
Yeah, you can hit that, Rusty, as a guide, because 6 is only one over, but go ahead, and then I have another thought.
Yeah, so Zach brought this up at our chairman's. He says he has a 555 rule, which is 5% interest rate, 5 or longer years on a term, and then 5% down. So what you would say to this guy is, hey, this is where I'm at. I'm at 5% down, 5% interest, and 5 or more years on the term.
Okay, and see what he says.
You set that boundary.
See what he says.
Okay.
I like that counter, especially if he dictated the offer and that's how he started his room. And then you got to decide. My general comment is going to be, you got to decide if those numbers work, Wendy. There's nothing in there that's awful, but I would reset it to Rusty's point first.
Okay.
In worst case, go ahead, Rusty.
I was going to say, we can get him to 6%. Chris has always done this. He ladders it, right? First year is, or maybe you could do 6 months of principal only, and then you ladder it to maybe 2% the next year, and then we get him to 6% in year 3 or whatever that is.
And you might be cashing out by year 4, so that works great. Like there's never a set thing you have to get. I like that piece too. That would be your next one after he comes back to you. So stay with Rusty and I on this, so we can keep countering with you. First one is when he set the 555. The second one is that, because he's not going to accept it all, right? So then you go back with that tweak that Rusty just did. And third, bare minimum, if he's dictating his price and is down, you have to get a longer term, right? You got to talk about the seesaw. You got these 3 variables here, and you're asking for all 3. I just can't give you all 3. That wouldn't be fair. We have to make this fair so we're both happy in 3 or 4 or 5, 6 years. I don't know many sellers.
Yeah, if I did give you a down and interest, and it might affect the price. So you gotta go that way too.
And or term. Yeah.
Okay.
There's not too many sellers when I've said that they sort of come back at me in a negative sense when I go, that just wouldn't be fair to give you all of them. And or they're not motivated to think they're getting all of them.
I mean, he's not super motivated because it's rented.
Yeah.
Is he expecting you to take on the tenant if that happens?
Yeah, he is. If he were to sell now, yes, he's expecting the buyer to take over the tenant.
My term usually starts when the tenant's out too, side note, but you can play with that because it's just all your term. But when I've did a lease purchase, I turned to a sub 2, but it didn't start till she left the tenant. Then it was a 3-year lease, which again, I converted it. I kept it longer, but it started with my term will start when she's out. I don't know when she's gonna be out.
Okay.
So you have some ammo there, right? You can go back and start with that first.
Yeah.
daily
Oh, yeah,
response.
yeah.